I'm sitting on grass, so I'm really hoping that I don't. It feels moist. Hi and welcome. My name is Melissa. If you are new, I do upload videos that are related to sewing, such as this one. If that is something that you're into, you like to sew, you like to talk about sewing, you like to find new things when it comes to sewing, go ahead and subscribe. Check out my other videos. I think you'll like them. Some people like them. If you are a returning subscriber, hey, so how are you? I'm doing pretty good. I'm all right. I'm good. I have makeup on today. I feel like I'm going to the Bahamas or something. I've never been, but I feel like that. So I listened to the podcast. I'll put the name of the podcast up here on the screen, and I listened to this. It's a sewing podcast, and I've listened to a couple episodes already. The first one that I listened to was called Why I Sew. I heard about it with two people that I follow on Instagram and on YouTube. I'll put their names up here. These are the two people that uploaded their video, and they uploaded the video called Why I Sew. And I found it really interesting, so I went ahead and listened to the podcast that they mentioned. And I don't even understand why, but some women that shared their stories even got me teary-eyed. It made me like cry because I could relate to them so much. So I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know why I sew. So I started sewing when I was 14. I was introduced to sewing in El Salvador. Sewing with your grandmother or with your mother is something really beautiful and special and really dear, and such a memorable experience. My experience is very memorable. So when it came to learning to sew, my grandma had this beautiful vintage very old machine, but it looked brand spanking new, and it didn't have a motor. And the reason why is because electricity is expensive. A lot of the things are very manual, and things that you can wind where you don't need to plug it in is because electricity is expensive. So my grandma had this awesome, beautiful sewing machine, but it was a pedal. You didn't connect it to anything. It was a pedal, and then in order to backstitch, you would have to stitch forward, boop, 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 a little bit, and then take your garment, turn it all the way around, and then again with the pedal, boop, 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 and then turn it back around with the needle down, and then go ahead and stitch. You had to do this every single time. And the first thing that I made was a curtain. It was hideous. I didn't even do a good job, but my grandma went ahead and put it on the window door. But then she ended up getting mad at me, and she took it down to let me know that she was mad at me. It was awesome. It's okay. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's how we are, okay? That was my experience. My grandma didn't sit next to me, and she wasn't like, this is what you're going to do. She was just like, here's the machine. This is how you stitch forward. This is how you backstitch. This is how you thread it. Make me a curtain. And it was like, oh my gosh, okay, and that's how sewing was for me. I tried sewing some different things. I tried learning, but this was back in El Salvador, so I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have a phone. I think this was before Androids. This was before the Razor was really popular in high school. Like, this was before my freshman year. So this was back in the day. You know what I mean? And because it's El Salvador, it's a third world country, that's just how it is. Anyways, so I tried learning a little bit. I was really into it because there was nothing else to do. I couldn't go outside because little girls just don't play outside out there. But I can talk about what going to El Salvador at a young age taught me and how it opened my eyes. But that's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother topic. If you guys are interested, let me know on Instagram or on YouTube, and I'll talk about the differences because that's where my family is from, and I take a lot of pride in that. But anyways, so 14, I was introduced to sewing, but I wasn't really taught to sew. And then fast forward, when I was 23, 24, I became a stay-at-home mom. I was pregnant with my son. My husband was working two jobs at that time. And so I stayed home with our other tiny human. So I started sewing because I thought that it would give me something to do. I didn't realize that it gave me a reason to do things every day. Sewing was a reason to get things done every day. I want to sew today, so let me get dinner started, let me clean the house, let me do this so that I can go and sew. Everything revolved around me sewing. So let me put the kids down for a nap, let me make them their lunch, let me put a movie in, and then let me go sew. That is why I kept sewing. Why I still sew now is because I realized that I have little eyes looking at me. I have two little humans looking at me sew. And sewing is a wonderful skill to have. It is a skill that will never get old. It is a skill that you can learn with any kind of machine, and it is a skill that will take you far and teaches you more than you'd ever expect. I never expected to have the patience that I have now, and I know that I have that because of sewing. I know I have that for other reasons, but sewing helps me mend everything together. Every stitch and every item that I make and that I wear, such as this one, it makes me feel accomplished, like I did something. I didn't expect myself to be here in this position when I was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was only 17, 18 years old, so I know that's very naive. But even 5 years ago, I never thought I'd be in this position. 6 years ago, like, I don't know how else to explain it, but I love sewing. I love everything about it. I love teaching my daughter to sew, even if it's lessons far apart and longer and then short. Even if it's short lessons here and there, I really enjoy teaching to sew, to teach her how to sew as well. I love and enjoy when my son comes in and wants his little pants fixed or wants something fixed or tells me to sew something. I love having my daughter, having her, if there's a hole in her teddy bear, teaching her how to hand stitch it on her own because it makes her feel good. I enjoy how good sewing has made me feel. So now that I'm teaching my daughter and teaching my kids to sew little things here and there, I love seeing how happy they are and accomplished they are when they sew something. And they see how satisfying sewing is for me, that they look up to it and they see it as something useful instead of something that's frustrating. And that's why I sew. And speaking of that, speaking of why I sew, I went ahead and purchased a sewing machine for my daughter, and I purchased the New Home by Janome sewing machine. I got the red one because it's like gender neutral. If this machine does last for that long to where, you know, a few years down the road my daughter is ready to upgrade to a better machine, then we can hand this one down to my son. But we shall see, even if he's interested in sewing, if he's not, if he doesn't care, whatever the case may be. But if that's always an option that I wanted to have open. So that is the machine and that is it. I'll go ahead and show you guys the unboxing. Okay, all right, that's a lot of stabbing, beautiful. wonderful day, week, and month. I hope you guys have an amazing year. Bye.
Bye.